getting the recording going here. All right. Well, today is an awesome training. Love this one. It is applicable all over your life and all over the workplace. And it is called being 100% responsible. So first, just a quick look at where we've been so far. We've looked at being 100% in integrity, communicative, productive, and today we're doing being 100% responsible. So one of the things that we're a little bit present to, sort of Libby and I and Eric, is that these tools only work as much as you practice them. Now, I know the communication tool takes some time and effort, but we really do encourage you to try it, even fumble through it. You know, there's lots of conversations that need to be had within a company and in your life. And if you use these tools, it will rock your world. So please do your best to take time to use these tools after this training. We're going to actually be working on how we can improve some space, how we can create some space for that to happen in the next game cycle. So having said that, off we go, being 100% responsible. And Nick, will you give me a thumbs up if everything's good? You can see the screen, everything's coming across. Great, thank you. Okay, love the hat. So being 100% responsible. First of all, what is it? It's claiming the ability to have things the way that you want them to be and being in action towards that. You know, there's lots of different definitions for these things, and one of the things we want to do is establish a common definition that we can all use. Okay, what it also looks like is shifting the locus of control to you. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. What it's not is giving up the ability to have things the way that you want them to be and being stuck with how things are and shifting the locus of control outside of you. Just a quick example that I'm going to use throughout this talk is about 5 months ago, I was having major issues with my computer. And I just didn't have the bandwidth to go get it fixed. And I was just like fighting with it. I had 2 computers. I'd shift this computer, that computer crashing in the middle of meetings. And all that I would do is complain about it and get irritated. That was not being 100% responsible, okay? I was giving up the ability to have things the way I wanted, and I was staying stuck in them being that way. Okay, so what does it look like? What it looks like is, I love this quote and I love this picture. Okay, the moment you take responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you can change anything in your life, okay? And that also applies to the workplace. I love this other picture. Life is what happens to me. No, it's actually what I make happen. These are 2 indications of being 100% responsible. So here's some images of what it does not look like, okay? And what often happens when we get stuck is we can shift to, I don't know what to do, or it's that person's fault, or they'll do it, right? Or all this stuff, right? So these are just some visuals on what it looks like to not be 100% responsible. I'm not currently able to get my chat window open for some reason. Something's going on with Zoom. So if you need to say something, please unmute yourself and tell me. All right.
Can everybody mute? We're hearing a lot of background noise.
Great, thanks, Libby. Okay, so why do we care? You probably have some notions of why we care, but I'm going to illustrate some points here. So when you're being 100% responsible, you're empowered, keyword here, empowered, to move things in the direction that you want them to be. You're able to play an active role in reaching the goals that HCI wants to accomplish as a team, and also move towards how you want your life to be. Right? And that's totally awesome. Now, also, more on why do we care? When you're not being 100% responsible, you're powerless. Okay, so the juxtaposition of words here is empowered versus powerless. And you can't move things in the direction you want them to be, and you're not able to play that active role in having things at HCI be and what you're trying to deliver on in terms of the purpose and also in your life. And that's not so awesome. And you can all probably agree that when that's happening, you're probably kind of unhappy and stressed out and miserable, right? Okay. And another way to say that is you're being a victim. Now, that's a strong word, and it's just like, forget about like what that word means out in society, but A victim is someone that is powerless to do something about something that they're interested in doing something about. So just take on wherever you're not being 100% responsible, you're being a victim. Okay? So this is a fun illustration of what it looks like when you're not being 100% responsible. You move that locus of control outside of yourself to have things be the way that you want them to be. You become powerless and life starts controlling you like a puppet. Okay, and I'm sure you all have some experiences of this. And one of the things that's very important about this whole concept of being 100% responsible and the whole culture equation, if you recall, that we looked at, if you're embracing the elements of the culture equation, that trust, teamwork, and performance, A+ levels of trust, teamwork, and performance are possible. And when they're not, they're not. When those things aren't in place, trust, teamwork, and performance are not. So just a quick question. This is one of those obvious questions. Is it easier to perform at a high level, build trust and teamwork when you're being 100% responsible, or when you're not being 100% responsible?
Being.
Right? Ding, 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 ding. Not that difficult. What's that? Okay, so we're going to keep going.
Not.
Yeah, so not being 100% responsible, okay? So being 100% responsible. So we can all agree that we want to take on this, right? It's something that will empower us in our lives and with what we're trying to accomplish with HCI. And let's just open up just briefly. I want to have a little bit of open dialogue. Why do you think that is? Like, what does it look like when we're all being 100% responsible?
Wow. It's like a lot of communication.
Mm-hmm. Nice stated. Mm-hmm.
Lots of activity.
This is Lucas. It's actually seeing things like the domino effect of things and all the connections between things, and seeing, oh, maybe I wasn't responsible for that part of the domino chain, but if I look back a little further, wow, I actually could have influenced it then. So we just see more opportunities for learning and growing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one other thing is, what I've noticed about it is that it invites other people to actually take responsibility too. So if I'm 100% responsible, then like other people, it's almost like people want to chip in that versus the opposite effect.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's contagious, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is the opposite is also contagious. And we'd much rather have being 100% responsible be contagious. That's beautiful. Thanks, Lucas. Okay, any others? Any other quick shout outs as to why this is the case?
This is Whitney. It's like everybody being in the boat together and paddling in unison. I watch people row out here on the ocean every morning, and all it takes is one being out of sync. But when they all paddle together, they move really beautifully and quickly.
Wow, I just got like tingly all over from that one. Nice, Whitney. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Beautiful. Thank you all for chipping in there. So one of the questions is, how do you know? Because it's like this kind of vague, nebulous concept, right? And this is one of the most powerful things that sort of, there's a lot of trainings here. This is like a nugget that if you take this one away from all of the trainings that we do now in the next game cycle, your life will completely shift. Okay, so you know that you're not being 100% responsible when you're stuck or stopped and moving from how it is to how you want it to be, and you complain about it. Okay, so stuck or stopped and complaining from how it is to how you want it to be. You are being 100% responsible when you're being unstoppable, not stuck or stopped, and moving from how it is to how you want it to be, and or you take responsibility for how it is. Two very distinct different states, and we're going to get familiar with this, and we can support each other in identifying when it's happening. So one of the things you'll note is, just because you're stuck or stopped doesn't mean you're not being 100% responsible if you're taking responsibility for how it is. However, if you're stuck and stopped and you're complaining about it, which is normally what we do as human beings, you're not being 100% responsible. Now, the reason why I say this is super powerful is that there's areas in your life where you're stuck or stopped, and you just stay stuck or stopped, and you kind of don't even know you're doing it. you're just like, you get these like areas of suffering because it's the way that you don't want it to be. And you try like 1 or 2 solutions to try to get it to be the way that you want it to be. And then you give up. You're like, oh, I can't do anything about it. Okay. One of the things that I really want to highlight is that there's like thousands of solutions to any problem. And we try like 3 at best, and then we give up. Okay. So this is the key slide here. How do you know you're not being 100% responsible or are being 100% responsible? You're not if you're stuck or stopped and complain about it. You are if you are being unstoppable and you're taking responsibility, and or you're taking responsibility for how it is. We're going to have some good space here to talk about some of this more in a moment. So this is kind of the rub here a little bit. In the 90-day game, you're stretching. And in most of your lives, you're stretching as well. And when you're stretching, you're going to fail. You're going to get stuck, and you're going to allow that locus of control to shift outside of you. It's just going to happen, right? If you're sitting on the couch watching television all day, then this doesn't really apply. But unless like your batteries run out on your remote control and you complain about it. Okay, so you're gonna get stuck. You will have periods of not being 100% responsible, and we're not saying that's a bad thing, but what we want to empower you to do is move past it when you identify it. So as with all of the trainings, we have a process to move from one state to the other, because the whole deal with this culture equation is identifying when something is out and then putting it in place through one of the processes that we teach you. And through that, you're going to facilitate, generate trust, teamwork, and performance individually and as a team. So here they are. So this is a 6-step process. Okay, so the first step is identify. Identify something that is not working in your role at work or in your life. We actually have a workbook in the Transformance Training workbook that each of you have. I will be getting that up to you by Monday at the latest. Okay, I don't have that sheet in the workbook yet, but it will be. Okay, so the first thing is identify something that is not working in your role at work or in life. Okay, the second thing is declare. Declare that you're willing to be 100% responsible for it being the way it is. This is like a key thing, because often we deflect and we're like, it's not my fault, they're not doing their thing, or I just don't have time, or blah, 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 whatever it is. Okay, so it's really powerful to declare that you're 100% responsible for how it is. The third thing, this is like super ultra important. Often when something isn't the way we want it, we're not clear on how we want it. We stay stuck in how we don't want it, and we complain about that. Okay, it's critical to identify and get clear on how you want it so that you can actually move to something different. Be as clear and descriptive as you can on that. The fourth step is identify and write down where you are stopped. Specifically, what it is that has you stuck or stopped. Because if you don't, that thing is going to continue to have you stuck or stopped. And generally, when we get stuck or stopped, there's something calling for to be transformed or moved through. So if you keep bumping up against this blind thing that you're not clear on what's stopping you, you're not going to be able to move on. So identify what it is that has you stuck or stopped. The fifth step is strategize at least one clear step to get unstopped. Okay, and I'm going to give an example in a moment, and then we're going to have some open dialogue. Okay, this is super important. Sometimes you might need coaching or outside consulting from a third party to figure out why you're stopped and what it is that you can do to get unstopped or unstuck. Because sometimes, like in our world, like we don't see any option, and that's why we stay stuck. And this is very, very important. And this is part of being 100% responsible, to step outside of yourself and get some outside support so someone can help you. Remember, again, I can't see the chat, so if you have anything you want to communicate to me, do it on the open mic. Okay, so the sixth and final step. Yes, go ahead, Erica.
Yes, and maybe you were going to get to this at some point, but are you going to be able to share this slide deck with us so we can use it with our teams?
100%. Every slide deck is available to you, as are the recordings. And they're all.
And I just
Perfect.
wanted to add, in addition to the workbook that you're going to share, if you could share it, is it a PDF so that we can share that for our team? Because if I can't share the workbook with them, I would need it in a PDF. And one more last quick thing, Eric, if you could mute your phone, we can still hear some background. Thank you.
Libby, you want the workbook to be in a PDF format?
Yes, please. So that way we can post it on our site and everybody can get to it.
Okay, let's talk offline because I can give you a template and then each person can make a workbook for each person, because the beauty of the workbook is they work in the workbook and you can't do that in PDF.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, sweet, noted. All right, so this last step, being bold, brave, and unstoppable with that one action, with a focus on how you want it to be, knowing you can have it that way. This is like super cool. Like when you finally get to that step, but sometimes you're like, oh, I can't take that action. You got to like muster bravery and courage and strength to actually take that step and focus on how you want it to be. You know, you can refer to the Top Athlete Playbook here where, you know, athletes visualize how they want it to be and take action to have it be that way. Okay. So I'm going to give a quick, so here's a mnemonic. It's not the greatest. IDWASA. Identify, declare, want, stop, where you're stopped, strategize, and how you're going to get unstuck and get into action. Okay, so it's a 6-step process. You probably never remember all these steps, but you can probably remember this, IDWASA. Okay, and you might say that to each other, IDWASA. If someone comes up with a better mnemonic, that's great, and we can use that. But that's what we're going with for now. So I'm just going to give you a quick example with the computer. So this went on for months. It's like ridiculous how long I let this go on. Finally, I like called the Apple store. I made an appointment. I went down there. They had my computer for a weekend. They refurbished the entire computer for $0 and about an hour of effort. My computer was perfect. And I was totally stuck and stopped to do it. All this like shenanigans for about 2 months. Okay, so look in your life and in the workplace where there's anything where you're stuck or stopped and take on this process. And if you can do it effectively once, you'll be super empowered to take it into any area of your life. Okay, so just in final here, and then we'll get into open dialogue. Each day at work and in life, you will often experience not being 100% responsible. And when you notice, excuse me, this is the wrong acronym. When you notice not being 100% responsible, move back into being 100% responsible by doing that IDWASA 6-step process. And I'll update the slide here, okay? And what's gonna happen, one of the reasons this training is beautiful right now, we have like 2.5 weeks left in the game. And what happens in the first 10 weeks of the game is everything that's a little bit more easy to get done, and what happens at the end is all those things that are kind of historically stuck or you're confronted by. Some of them are timing related, of course, but there's a few things that are challenging to get done because they're stuck or stopped somehow. That might be you, that might be an external resource, it might be a team thing, whatever it is, the game drives all of that stuckness to the surface. And what we want to do now is flex this being 100% responsible muscle to drive the goal zone completion number as close to 95% complete as possible. I know our minimum is 85%, but let us not rest our laurels on 85% because the other 15% is actually just as important, if not more important, than the 85%. You can think of it like a purging function. It's driving all those things to the surface that are like challenging you to get it done, okay? So that's the total of the presentation. I'm going to bring it back to this and open up for conversation. So questions, comments, things you're seeing, anything you want to communicate to the team on this? And remember, you have to unmute yourself.
I mean, this is great. I think the problem that I have is I see people not knowing what they're responsible for. So I feel like you kind of need that before you can take 100% responsibility. We have a lot of things where people are like, I didn't know this was mine. And like, we don't have really, we need to implement a mechanism in place so it's very clear what balls are in everyone's court.
Great, beautiful, Matt. So
Good point, Matt.
So, you know, that then is like, hey, how can we be unstoppable in identifying who's responsible for what, right? Because you could also look at historically, hey, we don't know who's responsible for what, and that's kind of being not responsible. Like, who's responsible for actually determining who's responsible for stuff, right? So maybe we can surface that in game 2. Great point, Matt. And
I've also noticed,
One
Sorry.
thing, Libby,
I've also noticed the benefit of having to list our roadblocks every week. I think one of the things in doing that is it makes you realize, is that really a roadblock that's about me? Is about someone else? It makes you kind of deal with that responsibility a little bit, I think, too.
Great, Libby. Yeah. And you can start applying this training when that roadblock thing comes up. There's, it's a really good week when there's no roadblocks, because like when we're stretching, again, things come up. So if you're like, oh, I don't have any roadblocks, look a little deeper, okay? And then use this training. Awesome, Libby. Thank you. What else do we have? So anyone have somewhere where they're like, wow, I'm just totally stuck or stopped there in this training. I got to like take this thing into that.
I think one of the biggest challenges is sometimes there's just so much to do that it's a matter of just saying, I'm going to do the level best I can in the time I have to get the big priorities done. But if my own sense of responsibility kicks in and I feel bad when I can't get to every single thing that needs to get done. But the reality of it is there's just more to do than is humanly possible right now for many of us. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is when you intentionally know that you're going to have to let something drop and not get to it in the time that you want to. That's just not a great feeling, and I don't know what else to do about it.
Right. So at a top level, it's one of the things that we really want to go after in the second game is this thing, right? And that would be bringing 100% responsibility to this overall thing that the team is experiencing, of always having too much on their plate. That's one thing that we want to do. We want to get responsible about it and see if we can move the needle on it, okay? The goal zone is an awesome place to remedy some of that, because it's forcing us to actually look at things that aren't working and take action on something that might not get addressed. Because you guys could operate for another entire year with like work overwhelm and not do anything about it. That's not being 100% responsible, okay? Like, we've heard it so many times from all of you, and we get it, and we really want to solve it, and let's work as a team to actually fix that problem. And of course, in startup phase, there's always periods of like stress and too much work, but if you let it continue, that's being a victim around it, unless there's other constraints. But we should talk about that as a team and fix it. Okay, so bring that unworkability. We're going to have some prep work for the goal for the offsite, where what this is going to be actually one of the things we're going to look at and how we're going to fix it. Great point, Libby. Okay, what else do we have? Any key problems?
I also feel, this is Tracy, when you put trust, teamwork, and performance together with a virtual company, you may feel you're responsible, but somebody else may look at it as you're not being responsible. So it's really hard. It's a tough balance, I feel, to know that you're maintaining 100% balance, but you have to make sure that it's across the board, that there's that trust, that teamwork, and that performance is all working together.
And how, Tracy, can you speak to how what you're saying relates to this, like, and how we might up level that? Yeah, that was kind of an overall statement around developing trust, teamwork, and performance. I didn't quite get the connection to the being 100% responsible.
Well, I look at my team, for instance. You know, they make several outbound calls per day. Now we're measuring outbound calls, and we're looking at individual metrics as far as their performance, and they feel that they're being responsible to the job that they have. And we have to trust that they are working together. You know, it's just an overall level of being responsible and trusting that my team that I can't see every day or talk to daily is truly giving it their all.
Okay, let's you and I follow up a little bit about that offline. There's something there, and I want to see if we can get at it. So
Right.
Yeah, totally. I'll make a note. Any other final things people want to throw in the mix here? Eric, haven't heard your voice. Anything you want to say about this? You don't have to, but
just bring this into your relationships.
yes. Spoken the words of God. Yes. Anywhere where your relationship is not working, look at where you can be responsible for that and what you can do about it. It's so rampant that in relationship, we say, we blame our partners for what's not working instead of where am I responsible for this not working and how can I move through it? Beautiful. I knew you had something important to say, Eric. Okay. Any other?
In closing, Raj, I just want to also say, based on Tracy's comment, we did introduce our core values to our company yesterday. And I think that this is another area where, when in doubt, when it comes to that trust and responsibility, that's also another spot where you can reference the core values and say, will this action build trust? Is what I'm about to do going to be the right thing? And get people, directed and holding themselves accountable on that.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I will be getting the recording and slide deck up no later than tomorrow morning. And have a great afternoon. I'll see the area leads. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Raj.
Thanks, Raj.
Thanks. Bye.